Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this GÉANT Infoshare this morning. And my name is Helen Clare, I work for Jisc. I'm going to be just doing the introductions and hosting the webinar, but I'll be handing over shortly to some of my colleagues from OpenAIRE. So this morning we are talking about the OpenAIRE Graph and its API and exploring the uses particularly for NRENs and giving you the opportunity to ask questions and find out a bit more about the graph. Delighted to say we've got speakers from OpenAIRE and from the University of Zagreb. So the session this morning will basically follow the format of Paolo Manghi, the Chief Technology Officer from OpenAIRE, will introduce the OpenAIRE Graph, give a bit of background. We've got Stefania Amodeo, who will talk about the API specifically. And then we've also got a use case. We've got Alen and Dominic from the University of Zagreb, who will talk about how they're using the OpenAIRE Graph sort of in practice. You'll see we are recording the session today, so that's for those that can't make it live today. And also we will be having questions, and we'll probably take questions after each talk, and then there should be time for general discussion at the end should we need it. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now and hand over to Paolo.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I see some known faces and some invisible ones that I know, so it's a pleasure. And it's a pleasure to meet you all. So I didn't know exactly what was the kind of attendance that I had today, so I put together a presentation that is a little bit of a balance between high-level stuff and technical stuff. So I'll leave it to the questions at the end to understand if I managed to deliver the message. Anyway, so quick one. So on OpenAIRE. So on OpenAIRE is an infrastructure. So we are working on several levels. Okay. One of them is for sure network. So we're building a network where we share information, and it's all about open science, of course. So all the buzzwords that you can think of when you hear of open science, we deal with them from fairness, open access, and so on. And the whole idea is to have information circulating in order to exchange between those that are more mature, according to some local practices or mandates or definitions even, and those that are less mature, so we can exchange the line globally. So it's not just European, it goes beyond. We have great contacts, I would say, with other continents and similar activities. And again, Europe is quite advanced in that sense. We've been pioneers, and we're still very much respected from that point of view. Here we also define guidelines and policies, and that's extremely important because then we deliver services that are implementing such guidelines and governance practices. So, for example, the OpenAIRE guidelines are the results of 10 years of a community discussing, debating at the global level, which is the best way to export metadata, bibliographic metadata, through platforms like repositories, data archives, and so on. And as a consequence of that, we have the implemented in the platform. So if today you deploy a disk space or a Dataverse or an ePrint installations, you may find out that you're OpenAIRE compliant. But beyond that, you are compliant with and aligned with thousands of repositories worldwide. So it's not just about OpenAIRE and the graph, but also others can exploit this alignment at the global level. And of course, we have training, and we have a lot of trainer stuff because we want people to take up with these practices. So we offer several services. So it's about 16 through a catalog. You may find a link to the catalog in this slide. So for your use. So we did the kind of functionalities that we offer through the services span across several levels of the research life cycle. So I'm not going through all of them today. I'm just focusing on the graph, but just to let you know that we are targeting other aspects. So before I introduce the graph, so what has changed and why do we need a graph? Of course, open science, we know it's evolving rapidly and globally. So if in the past we were relying on graphs or knowledge graphs a la Scopus and Elsevier, Web of Science, and so on, even Microsoft Academics, it was because we wanted to track the impact of science. So how scientists were publishing, how much they were producing, in which field, and so on. So we needed that stuff. But most of it was focused on peer-reviewed publications. While today we are, well-oiled here, I'm not saying anything new. We're going well beyond that. So it's not just about peer-reviewed scientific articles, it's about data, it's about software, it's about reports, it's about working groups or packages of software that we are delivering. So it's about many things that needs to be monitored and that in the end will define our impact. So national funders and ministries have mandates. They ask us to do and to publish according to such mandates. So as open as possible, as close as necessary, data, software, follow guidelines of several kinds. How can we monitor that using the old, let's say, graphs that we had? That was really hard to do. So this is why we started thinking of the OpenAIRE graph. And we want to also blend this notion of quantitative indicators with qualitative narratives, aligned with many of the policies and the strategies of the organizations worldwide. So, for example, the open access practices, COARA is not just about publications, is not about only indicators. They want to go beyond that. So we need an overview of the scientific production that goes beyond the usual idea that we had, the traditional idea that we had of Web of Science. This is proven by the numbers also. We have 80 million products in the graph today. We have more than 700 ORCID identifiers that are including in their profiles data or software, okay? So it's a lot. It's 1/10 roughly. So it's changing. Things are changing and we need to follow up, okay? Now, what is the OpenAIRE graph? It's a scientific knowledge graph, meaning that we have, if you don't know what a graph is, think of Facebook. Nodes in the graph of Facebook are people, and then you have edges connecting them, right? So semantically connecting them. My friend, my wife, my lover, whatever. In the context of science, it's very similar. So the nodes are the products. So my publication, my thesis, my presentation, my data, my software, and we have ways to connect them. Like this paper is supplemented by this data set, which means they go together, or sites or quotes, another one, references, mentions. There are many ways through which these objects can be connected to each other. And on top of that, you have more. You may have this publication and this data that have been funded under this grant, which is in turn is under this funder, and so on. So building a knowledge graph for representing the impact and the financial aspects of science is crucial, you may understand, for organizations, policymakers, and whoever has a community that wants to be monitored. So this is what a scientific knowledge graph is. We update it monthly. We care a lot about precision, depth, and processing. So we have a rigorous infrastructure behind it. So it's quite of a big thing that we are dealing with. So we have different layers and people and professionals involved at all levels, from the administration to the data curation and data engineering, software development, portals, and so on, as you will see. Okay. So there's a lot of AI and full text mining as well, so we have dedicated infrastructure for it. So this is the overview of the data model not from the moon, maybe from Mars, but at this level, you can see that we have research products we care about, publications, data, and software, and other kinds that don't fit with these definitions, typically thematic products. We have persons that are connected to these products. We know where each product is coming from. We have projects and also funders, so we connect them to the products. We have organizations, so these actually play an important role in the participation to projects, in the affiliations of authors, and so on. We have communities. There are many other things that we care about, so we include indicators. So products can be dynamically added with indicators that are coming, some from the graph or from external sources that we care about. So for example, article processing charges, we know how much is being paid for the open access publishing. We know how many citations, we know the usage data, so downloads and views of each individual object. And all this data is also coming from services provided by OpenAIRE, which are collecting this information in Europe and globally. We have reproducibility indicators that can be provided, for example, trends in linking publication to data, publication to software, and so on. Everything, let's say, is possible to be calculated on top. We just measure what is needed by a community and we serve them accordingly. Other entities will enter the picture. We all know about services and tools that are very important, not yet in the graph, but they're being structured in RDA working groups in terms of how they should be represented. We started having collections of those identifiers for those, so they'll probably be candidate for the next versions of the graph. So these are statistics, just take a look at them, but just to say it's big, it's big, it's big, it's growing. Of course, there are several issues. The devil is in the details. And as you will see, we solve them by engaging the community in this process. So these are the numbers after the deduplication of the graph, okay? So the graph is deduplicated, so the same information may come from different parties, but we bring them together into one object, preserving provenance, of course, preserving the links to the original manifestations of each object, because we believe it's really important. So for a publication, you may have the published version, but also the open access version, the preprint version with the dates and the typing and everything cleaned up. Important to highlight, we have not only publications, citations between publications, but we also have publications, data publication software. That's a critical piece of information. So OpenAIRE is the place where you can find everything in one place, okay? So everything in one place for your statistics. So what is specific for us is we have a very large data source coverage in terms of open science, so we are not stick to the usual traditional sources. We enter the very challenging world of detailed bibliotyping, so we care about the difference between an article and the deliverable, so we don't call them articles altogether. So we try to identify the fine grain granularity of the bibliotyping. We have the duplication, we deduplicate the records and the citations that come with them. So if you have two records with similar, identical citations to other objects, when they go together, the citation is merged, so not to have more citations than expected. And what is extremely important, we engage with the community. So we're not just an end of the stream source, but we go back to the original data sources, to the researchers, and we find ways and methodologies to improve how they publish, okay? Because OpenAIRE is here today, we'll be here in 10 years, 50 years, but the data and the pure data, the quality of data has to be preserved at the original sites, so the original repositories, okay? Because others in the future may do the same work. So this is how it works today. I'll go very quickly through this logic, but we have different kinds of sources. Some of them are aligned with our guidelines, and there are thousands. So to them, we provide all the tooling to verify they're aligned. We give them feedback. It's all automated as much as possible, so you can verify how compliant you are to the guidelines. Once you're in, you can become part of this process of aggregation. Then we have sources that we call instrumental, with like registries, persistent identifier authorities, and so on, which we bring into the graph because they represent, let's say, the skeleton of the graph. They represent the persistent identifiers and the skeleton around it. So we do the aggregation, then we do the enrichment by mining. We are downloading PDFs as much as possible. We are up to 70 million at the moment. We download 80,000 per day. We have agreements with publishers of several kinds. They give us the data, with the PDFs, and we mine them. But we also download them from sources that declare them as open access. And from the full text, we derive a huge amount of information. So for the metadata, we enrich the metadata, links to projects, links to data, link to software that are not provided as references. So what we reveal to the world is a lot more. And of course, we return it to the world. For example, we give it back to open citations. We give it back as open data to anybody who wants to use it. Then we do the deduplication on top, as I mentioned before. We enrich by inference. That's another magic that I won't describe today, but it's really nice. We can propagate information from trusted objects to other objects like ORCID, links to projects, etc. Then we finalize it and we publish it to the world. Okay, so the graph is published to the world through APIs and also offered through portals, as you will see. So you can explore, discover the graph. You can slice the graph the way you want for your community. or you can come up with indicators of all sorts, traditional ones like citations, but also other combination of indicators that are possible. Among our consumers, we have all sorts of use cases, from organizations to ministries of education that are using our services, to companies, SMEs, they want to build, for example, monitoring tools, or large enterprises like Elsevier and so on that use our data for their own purposes. What is really important here is that we, whatever we collect, we go back to the original users and we engage the users. So we have tools, for example, to send richer information to the original repositories. Original repositories can therefore learn from what we have. For example, missing ORCID identifiers, links to open access versions of the papers they have, links to data, links to software, and they can enrich the local collections. Some platforms like DSpace have already embedded dashboards through which they can interact with our APIs, and curators can choose which is the information they want to bring into their own local collections. Other ways are, for example, OpenORGs. This is a tool that we built in order to generate together a cleaning of the organization persistent identifiers multiplicity that is out there. So cleaning up affiliation information is crucial to deliver transparent research assessment, because it's really hard to understand if a department of computer science is related to this faculty, to the other faculty, or so on. So we have tools that do all the possible magic manually and then involve more than 100 now. We have curators in Europe which curate this at the local level for the nations. So for example, you can align your local registries of organization at the national level. This is something we're doing with the Netherlands, for example, with ROR identifiers or other registries that we have, like the PIC from the Commission and so on. And that helps a lot in building transparent open science. So the difference, this is very quick, is that usually in the past, we rely on Crossref, UAJ, Archive, DBLP, ORCID, and ROR, let's say, to build these knowledge graphs. This is what Dimensions does, Clarivate does, Scopus does, and have curation with users on top. In the world of scholarly knowledge graphs like OpenAIRE and others, we instead go at the detail level of the individual sources. So we also include local registries, we include local aggregations. EOSC node catalogs now is the next step. That's just a quick view, but just to give you an idea. So we have PID registries and curated collections as instrumental data sources, so the skeleton that I mentioned before. And then we have thousands of institutional, thematic, catch-all aggregators. So we go into the research infrastructures, we collect the data. Pangea is one of the many examples. Gizis and many others are being one by one collected by us. So what is important, I just want to highlight, is that what we do is community governed. So if you're part of OpenAIRE, if you're a member of OpenAIRE, you can be part of the vision, of the planning, and that's the whole idea. So we want the graph to match the demand of the community and under the approval of the community, and have a vision that is 5 to 10 years that goes in that direction. So we include the community in the discussion. Now we're planning to have a way to also have external consultations on what we do to understand if we do the right choices for the future. Of course, we go beyond publications. We are being used by many of the known actors out there who are trying to measure, monitor the way they implement open science policies and follow up with the return of investments they have. We have easy APIs that can be used for the citation index especially. And the citation index from that perspective is quite unique because it's, again, I'm repeating myself, but it's important, it's open. And you can find all citations that are available in the open access world between all sorts of objects, okay? You can access the graph through data or through APIs, and Zenodo is, we have several slices of the data in Zenodo, as you will see. So we publish the whole collection, but also subsets that are of interest to the community. For example, all the outputs of VC-funded projects. So that could be, that's a classic example, okay? But there are many. So if you go to the Zenodo and find the OpenAIRE collection of data, you will find out that there are many slices out there. So which are the applications? Discovery and research assessment are the main ones, but there are many. So of course, we have research. So we have people using our data for data analytics, bibliometrics, altmetrics. They play a lot with it. They publish. We have plenty of papers, hundreds that are mentioned in the OpenAIRE graph as an input. But then we also have, as I mentioned before, useful applications for communities, where communities here can be, again, regional communities, like a ministry who wants to serve a country, or an organization, or a funder, for example. So discovery, we go beyond the publications, links between pub and data and software, so you can browse down your objects. But assessment, examples are citations, article processing charges, funding. You may want to know how much money got to a project in a certain domain for producing which kind of products, could be data, software. And monitoring. Monitoring is actually very important. It's, let's say, a new thing, but it's an obvious consequence of investing a huge amount of money in open science services. Are they useful? So what is useful here? Are we producing data as fair as we want? Is it open access in the way as we want, and so on? So monitoring, it's becoming more and more key, as well as reporting, okay? So it's one of the applications that is most sought after today. So organizations, ministries are asking us this kind of tools and dashboards to measure all sorts of stuff, collaborations cross-discipline and cross-countries, but for example, double funding, because we have grants from 180 funders. Well, actually, only from out of 30 of these, because collecting grant information, it's only doable if the funder approves for that. Typically, they come and knock at our door. They give us the fundings so that we collect regularly the grants, and then we apply mining on all the publications that we have. We find all the links, and we return quite precise reporting about this. And this is, for them, is critical also, because through the link between a publication and a grant, you can also derive the link between the publication and the data that comes with that, the link between the grant and the data that comes with that publication. And that's extremely important, because it's rare to find an explicit declaration of funding in the data, okay? So it appears in the paper. So we build these connections and we report, we help the funders to do that. So today, when you go to the participant portal through Sigma to declare your publications and data, all the suggestions are coming from our APIs, from the OpenAIRE APIs. So examples are, you can go to Explore. OpenAIRE Explore is the user interface for discovery and search. So you can go here and search, or you can ask, contact us, and then you can have a portal for your country. In this case, this is the one that we built for the Netherlands. The Netherlands, they also have the monitoring, so the monitoring open science part, or you can have it for a community, for example. This is the one that we built for Daria, okay? These are all highly configurable, so you can basically select the sources that you want to be included, several criteria, I'm not going through them, including Zenodo collections and criteria, predicates in the types, in the ORCID, all sorts of things. This can be done on your side through the UIs. And every time we regenerate the graph, we generate your content, which you can have through the portal, through a data set in Zenodo, and through the APIs dedicated for the specific community. This is just an example of the open access monitor. This is for the Ireland. In Ireland, they wanted to monitor open access and peer-reviewed publications at the national level. So they were not interested at the moment in data and software, but just going through the traditional numbers. So what we did is, you can visit it, and it's much better if you do it on your own than through this presentation. But the idea is that at the national level, we can provide a view that is also organization specific, repository specific, or researcher specific, about the usual details of open access reporting. For example, Plan S, article processing charges, rates open access, average citations. Well, yes, of course, there's bibliotyping, so you can detect which are the differences between them. And then you can have a view at the level of the institution. Then that's another example, is the EOSC Observatory. Here we observe the countries from a different perspective. So you have a view, which is the one of Europe, and it's a combination of numbers that come from the graph and that have been collected by the individual nodes. Okay, so we can combine the two. and come up with interesting dashboards. For example, open access publishing in Europe in general. So this is the European level. EU countries with policy on immediate open access publication. This comes from interviews, but then you can combine it, of course, with the numbers of the graph. So have a view that is specific to a country, to a region, or even to a research infrastructure, if you want. These are just examples for France. Financial investments in open access publications. That's another thing that we can derive from the graph in combination with the publications and the grants information. And blah, blah. I'm not going to take too much time on this. That's the country perspective. For Czech Republic, maybe we'll learn a little bit more from our colleagues with Croatia. Now, that's the last message. So it's for and by the community. So the graph is public good. So we are really investing a lot in engaging with communities who bring us actually tools also to improve the graph, but also to involve them in the precious cycle of cleaning the data in the original place. And this can only be prevented by alerting data sources, researchers, and policymakers to make their mandates more precise and more stricter and aligned. So that's the other thing. Using our graph as a way to monitor also how these activities are going, and providing the tools to let's say, provide feedback in a structured manner so that it can be reused and enriched. This is actually key for us, okay? So it's important. So if any of you would like to actually be part of this, we are very happy to include you in the conversation wherever we are, okay? Thank you. I hope I was clear enough.
Yeah, thanks, Paolo. If there's any questions, please do think about them, put them in the chat. But Klaus, I see you've got one. I don't know if you want to take the mic or...
Sure, I can do that. Hi, Paolo.
Hello.
Since you complained that I didn't show my picture, I decided to show my picture. Still not as good as having a drink together. One question. So if I do what everybody always does with these things, enter their own name, I see a huge difference between, for instance, OpenAIRE Explore and say Google Scholar or something. Can you explain how you make sure that you have a good coverage of all the sources of data?
Yeah, of course, there is one thing that we should know, that is, it's an ongoing battle between the open data people like us, like OpenAlex, like I mean, all the guys that are involved in this battle, because it is in the end a battle. I'm sorry, because I'm friends with Elsevier's people. I really like them. But the thing is that Google Scholar has an agreement with the publishers. So they have access to the original papers. And that's, of course, a key advantage, right? So when you provide the service. At the same time, Google Scholar, as well as these services that are provided by Elsevier and these companies, are completely non-transparent. So we don't know anything. So we are basically in their own hands. So Klaas, the thing is that we should publish open access. That's the only thing. And this is what we're trying to do. So this is why we are aggressive in indicators, and we show how things are improving, because in the recent years, and again, the Commission has been amazing from this side compared to all the other funders worldwide, we've been pushing for open access at its maximum, so platinum open access, so pure open access. Things are indeed improving. So I'm really optimistic in the fact that in a few years we'll reach similar standards. For the past, I cannot say that because, for example, the agreements we have with the publishers, they're interesting because we have agreements with Springer, with ACM, with Taylor & Francis, with Wiley, and with Elsevier, okay? And the way they give us their publications is completely diverse and based on their business models, of course. So some of them give us a lot, some of them give us very little, and each of them has different terms of use on the data that we have, which complicates a little. Of course, our idea is that if you give us stuff, then whatever we derive from it, it's open, it's public, right? Mm-hmm. This is a problem for some publishers. I'm not naming ones, but for some problem, it is really, really a big problem. So, the people I talk to would like to, but they cannot, because it's a policy from the company. So your question, of course, is important, but I think what we need is a change of mindset. It's not to wait that open access publications the publications are all open access, but really changing the mindset and say, this is what we can do today. Let's change it together, but let's use these data sets, right? Not the other ones. Let's invest money in the most profitable way. That's the idea.
Thanks, Paolo.
Thank you.
Thanks. There is a question about the presentation. Are you happy to share the presentation, Paolo?
Yes. No, it's closed. It's closed access, and you have to pay.
Great. Okay, we'll make sure those links are sent out. Okay, well, we'll hand over to Stefania to talk a bit more about the API.
Thank you very much. I also will share my slides, of course. Okay, so yeah, I'd like to give you some practical guidance to use the APIs actually. So as Paolo said, the graph is built. This is built, the entire process of aggregating, the duplicating, cleaning, enriching is done every month, and then the graph is released. Either with data sets on Zenodo, where we use the data for porters, but what is the topic of this talk? Most importantly, also with through APIs. So a few key information about them and how they work and how you can use them. So starting point to use the APIs is to get to the documentation, because that's the official place where you can find all the up-to-date information. These are, so I've included the link here, and you will get it with the slides. So these are REST APIs. Free to use, and they are accessible using the HTTP protocol. So this means that you can you can use it and access them either through browser queries or through the terminal, or even embedded into your. I mean, you can get to them with any program languages and embed into web portals, web applications, and it's very easy to let the system communicate between different platforms. All the requests starts with the this endpoint here. I mean, this base URL here. And then we'll see which are the endpoints that are available. Together with this documentation, there's also an interactive documentation that uses a Swagger user interface. So there you can go and test directly in the browser. You can test your queries and have a list of all the everything is possible, all the possible parameters and all the options that you can query for. The API use a GET method. So these are standard GET requests for a clear semantic for retrieving the resources and the metadata, and the responses are returned in JSON. This is actually one of the major updates that we did in the last year, upgrading the APIs to provide JSON responses, because these are more I mean, flexible, human readable, and also can be processed by different programming languages, etc. I'd like to open a parenthesis here in case anyone in the audience is using currently the old version of the APIs that returned responsive with XML. to get in contact with us, because we would like to fully move to this new format with JSON responses in the near future. So we'd like to see how our the API users, if you're ready to fully update it to the new APIs. Close of the parenthesis. So this is an example of a kind of response where we looked for the research product OpenAIRE Graph and the type of responses that we get. For brevity, of course, I've screenshotted only a part of the responses. So what are the endpoints that you can query? So the endpoints reflect the core entities of the OpenAIRE Graph that Paolo presented before. The research products that give access to publications, dataset software, and the other kind of research outputs. Data sources for repositories, journals, content providers, etc. Organization for academic institution, funding bodies, etc. And projects. A major update is that we are also including a new endpoint, a new entity in the graph, and therefore also a new endpoint for the APIs for persons. So there will be a get persons endpoint to give access to researcher profiles, their associated work, starting with researchers that have an ORCID identifier. So this is coming soon update. And something that I'd like also to highlight, as Paolo said, is the citations and linking from using the Scholix standard. So we have the Scol Explorer API specialized for that, but we are also we have made also the effort to incorporate also these endpoint into the main graph API, so that you can find all the information just accessing the graph API. And it's an example here of how you can retrieve information based on, given a source product with an identifier, and you can get everything that is related to this product. For example, where the relation is of the type sites, etc. So this is also very, very powerful and very used to discover citation networks, all the related works through the graph. That comes either from our providers, open citations, Crossref, data sites, the journals and repositories that we include, but also, as Paolo said, with mining or mining the text of the publications to look for meaningful links. Publication datasets, publication software, publication, etc. I'd like to mention the capabilities of filtering to narrow down results. Okay, these are what you expect from the APIs, of course, but just to make a visual recap. So if you want to target some research query and filter by range, funding source, institutional affiliation, etc., sorting by relevance or citation count, or what is relevant for your search. And we also have a paging pagination control to handle large data sets. Just yeah, few notes on how to access. As I said, the APIs are free. Authentication is recommended if you need to do something programmatic and you require more than 60 requests per hour. So with an authentication, and I've included here the link to learn how to do what's the process, but very, very easy in any case, to get up to 70 to 100 requests per hours with an authenticated account. I think we have my last. Oh, Paolo wanted.
Oh, sorry, no.
Disappeared on my screen. Very last slide about some key resources. If you'd like to start, the documentation, the 2-page fact sheet, some training material that we have from we had a live training this summer. And also I've put a link on a Python notebook with some working examples. So when you get the slide, you'll get to the material as well. And that's it for me. Oops. Oh, okay. I don't show the last slide because it's not updated. Sorry, but yes, you'll have my email and the link to the help desk and to the forum for any questions. And that's it from my side.
Thanks. There's no questions in the chat at the moment, but please do add them or raise your hand if you have a question. But if not, we'll move over to Alen to talk about. Oh, sorry. Yes. Do you have a question?
I couldn't put the hand. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. Yes, the hand didn't work. Okay, no worries. Go ahead, Ricardo.
Thank you very much. About the provenance of the metadata fields, I was trying to figure out if then documentation it says, for example, the ORCID ID was provided by certain ports, certain source, or if the institution name was provided by certain source, but I couldn't find it. It is also in the API structure.
Yes, so the provenance is one of the parameters that are part of the results. So you couldn't find it because it said provenance null, for example, or because it was.
No. I'm trying to understand if the provenance, like it happened with another OpenAIRE on another platform, that you really want to know if the name is coming from the journal, is coming from a secondary source, is coming from a tertiary source, because sometimes you find a difference in the affiliation name. You go to the web page of the article, appears certain affiliation, then you go to Crossref, appear another, then you go to another platform, appear another. So to really know which is the source of that field.
Okay. Sorry, Stefania, just clarify this. So no, there are differences. For example, for author names, we don't make such a difference. So we're collecting it usually from the most trusted source. So yes, we have an internal policy. So if it comes from Crossref, is trusted more than others. So we have different policies depending on the fields. Okay, so in the case of the authors explicitly, we don't keep track of that. So what you know is that for each record, you have all the pointers to the other records, so you know where the original records are, so you can actually tell. You can go back to the original record and check which is the original name for that record for the different versions, but it's not tracked in the merged version of the record, okay? This is a choice because we are doing a lot to deduplicate information. OpenAlex, for example, doesn't. So they don't deduplicate much. So you find the different records on the different sites. Okay, so you find, for example, the archive and the published version separate. So in this case, of course, when you reuse the data, you have to recombine them and be careful about the citations because they don't merge the citations. So you count twice if they have it from both sides. So it's just two different approaches, okay? In the end, the data is there. You need to be aware of how to deal with it, okay? So in one of the slides, I wrote that we are, they say, a ready-to-go collection. So no need to do work at the local level because we make some assumptions in terms of the duplication, which you should be aware of. When you use instead our collections, you have to recombine things locally, okay? And the data is there in two different shapes. Of course, if you don't like the way we duplicate, then you have to take the original records from our side and do it again on your side, okay? We're trying to serve one view of the duplication. But yes, for the author fields, we don't. We tell you when we infer the information. So if the information is inferred, we inform you with the level of trust also from 0 to 1 that this piece of information was inferred from mining, from full text mining or other sorts. Okay. So that's roughly the summary.
Yeah.
Super,
Yeah,
thank you very much.
field report.
And one thing, you will probably find extensive information in the dump. So when you take the data from the dump, you find all possible provenance tracking, etc. In the API, I think we took something out because it was too verbose. It would have been impossible to, and the balance there is not obvious to reach, but I think we came down with a reasonable amount of information through the API.
That answer your question, Ricardo? Great,
Yeah,
great,
thank you
thank you.
very much for.
Yes, thank you. There is also a comment from Daniela in the chat about connecting OpenID, but having to manually claim publications and whether this can be done automatically. Are there any comments on that, Paolo or Stefania?
Okay, yes. This is an interesting one because it's something that we worked on a lot. So we are ORCID members. So we download everything from ORCID. So we have for each ORCID ID all their publications. Now, we have to make a big effort, and it's not obvious on how to include the ORCID ID into the records because this is not done by ORCID. So you need to find ways to match names, etc. Which, by the way, allowed us to find out a lot of errors in ORCID, but that's the other thing. Now, so we have in the graph all the publications coming from ORCID with an ORCID ID inserted through ORCID, and these are the deep green one you find in the portal. Okay, so these are the ones that have been claimed by users. Then we have a huge amount of ORCID that are coming from data sources where users have declared them, like in Zenodo, but they haven't yet put them in ORCID. Okay, and then we have a third set, which is the one that we infer. So we can propagate ORCID identifiers from objects to objects because of clear associations between them. Okay, so a publication has full ORCID identifiers, it's supplemented by a data set, and the data set has the same authors. Okay, so the supplemented by allows us to migrate, shift the ORCID IDs there. Now, when you access our portals, what you can do is to log in with your ORCID ID, and then you're able in one place to find all the objects that are presumably yours, okay? So light green, basically, with an ORCID, and send them to ORCID, okay? So you can do it through the portal, okay? This is actually used a lot. We have hundreds of thousands of claims because you go in one place and you find everything you've produced, basically, okay? So that's the idea, okay? So search, go to the portal, log in with your ORCID ID, search using your ORCID ID, you can. So if you find one of your object, you can, by right-click, decide to search for your own ORCID ID. And from there, you will find out what you can claim. There's a button, you just claim, and everything will go to your ORCID. You can fill it in.
That's great. Thank you. Fascinating. I didn't know about that feature. Okay, Alen, be great to hand over to you to explain how you're using the OpenAIRE Graph at the University of Zagreb.
Thank you. I'm sharing presentation with you. I hope you see it.
Perfect.
Okay, morning everyone from rainy Zagreb. First of all, thank you Stefania and thank you OpenAIRE for this opportunity to share our use case with all of you. Let me first introduce myself, Dominic, and our company. I have more than 10 years of experience developing, maintaining, and providing support for various IT systems. 8 of 10 I am working at SRCE as a development lead. My responsibility is building and implementing the UNIC virtual campus with my team. Also, I am working as a data analyst and performs many complex tasks related to data warehouses in the field of higher education and research in Croatia. Dominic today has a day off, but Dominic working in my team. He has more than 3 years of experience in development, maintaining, and providing support to users of national system within higher education. He works as a full stack developer at SRCE, where his primary responsibility is working on systems like UNIC Virtual Campus. And now a few words about SRCE. The University Computing Center SRCE has a long tradition in the area of information and communication technologies. It was founded in 1971 within the University of Zagreb, the only Croatian university at the time, with the purpose to enhance the implementation of information technologies in the academic community as well as in Croatia in general. Today, SRCE is a central infrastructure institution that plans, develops, and improves e-infrastructure and digital services for the needs of the academic and scientific community in Croatia and provides support in their usage. As the major national infrastructural ICT institution in the area of research and higher education in Croatia, SRCE is providing modern, sustainable, and reliable e-infrastructure for academic and scientific community. This includes computing and cloud services, high performance computing, advanced networking communications systems and services, middleware, data information system and infrastructure. Okay, that's for introduction.
Sorry,
yes.
The slides are not changing.
And now?
Now, yes. Okay.
Okay, now why we are here? Virtual UNIC is one of more than, I think now is more than 60 alliances in Europe. 10 universities participating in UNIC, and one of them is University of Zagreb. SRCE, as a part of the University of Zagreb, is responsible for building and maintenance of the UNIC Virtual Campus. UNIC Virtual Campus is available at the URL you see here, campus.unic.eu. And what is Virtual Campus? Virtual Campus is an information system consisting of a central database and several web applications and APIs. Firstly, is envisioned to cover the virtual mobility of students, and later on through UNIC for Engage Research project was expanded. This part we called Open Science Campus. We added a new role in the system researcher, and we connect Virtual Campus with ORCID and OpenAIRE platforms. Today, our focus will be on connection, on a relationship between Virtual Campus and OpenAIRE. And now maybe it will be better that you open in your browsers our virtual campus and choose research outputs option. In general, our use case is to retrieve research outputs from OpenAIRE for all 10 UNIC universities and display it in UNIC Virtual Campus. This data is public available in Virtual Campus. Here we use data table display, and here users can search, filter data, etc. When you click on details, you see also more information about this resource, like authors, contributors, organization, language, subject, description, and links to local repositories. And now a few words about technical background of this of our use case. Somewhere at the beginning of this year, when colleagues from OpenAIRE deploy new version of APIs, we start to re-implement our sync jobs. First, we retrieve organization ID for all our universities and stored the identifier in database. And after that, and now we use the research products APIs to retrieve research outputs. And we have two jobs. One is schedules once a day, and one is schedules once of month. Both running research product APIs. Daily sync use parameters from and to publication date, and they are running for each organization and retrieves the data for previous days. For example, today we will retrieve data for yesterday. And monthly sync job retrieves data for the entire month. Example, on 1st September, we were retrieving data for the entire July. This is additional control for us in case that the daily sync does not retrieve all data or if some data is missed. General result, we using old APIs, and then we fetch around 100,000 research outputs, and now we retrieve more than 500,000 research outputs in Virtual Campus. Also, in some future development cycles, we aim to enable connection of researcher and their outputs with the Virtual Campus, claiming of products, in short. So that's the short explanation of our use case, and I'm open for your questions, or we can discuss, etc. Do you hear me?
Yes, I was just leaving some silence to see if there are any questions coming up. Maybe there are some reflections from Paolo or Stefania about implementing the case and how that went.
No, it went well. It was one of the smoothest one. Have several ways to interact with organizations like with Alen. So for the simplest one is actually when you have a repository, and every time you visualize a publication, you just request to our APIs whatever is connected to it, so you visualize it. Okay, that's one way to go. The other way instead is how they do it. So they actually embed information. They download it locally, they combine it with theirs, and they produce a coherent portal on their site. So it's a way to reuse this stuff. I think this one is probably one of the most complicated because you need to download the data, integrate it with your own stuff, and present it with the different portals, and it worked fine. Not much to say. But a very common use, again, is the one just on hitting the APIs to show more about your documents or your data, or this is how, for example, Scopus uses our APIs. So every time you visualize a publication in Scopus website, they hit on our APIs to fetch potential connected data and software and visualize it.
I can say that so Alen and Dominic and the group at University of Zagreb, they participated in the beta testing of our new graph APIs. We had this phase. I think it was a year ago, about 1 year ago, when we moved
last summer, I think.
Last summer, yes, from the old search APIs to these new ones, and you gave your feedback. Maybe, I don't know, you want to say a few words on what, I mean, yeah, what did you find in this version and the feedback you gave us for the APIs?
Yes, we also, I didn't mention, we also use Swagger documentation of our APIs, and moving to Swagger was really help us a lot. And of course, thank you for opportunity to participate in beta testings. You help. We are helping you to improve from your side, and you heard our wishes, how we can be the easiest way to fetch some data for us. Maybe in future, if I can say, it will be great that you add some timestamp when the data are pushed to to OpenAIRE. Something like this.
Yeah, it's not the first time we received this this request. Paolo, would you like to say anything about?
Yes, this is a long story. This is a very long story. It's so we publish it monthly, as you know, Alen, and it's very hard, if not impossible, and also to consume, to produce a delta, if this is what you're asking for. So if
Yes.
you'd like to know only what is new,
yes,
then this is a big problem, because we perform the duplication, first of all, and the duplication may include new stuff every day, including relationships. So the world that we are dealing with changes a lot. It's very dynamic. Information may be missing in the next round. So a repository may decide not to publish or to remove some content. So providing in a structured way the difference would actually require building very complex tools on your side. So it is very hard. So imagine you have a record today, and next month you have the very same record with the same ID, but some metadata is missing because one of the original records has been removed from the original source. We don't know why, but we have to respect the choice, right? So it is, or you have extra relationships, or a citation has been removed, and now you have a new link to a project. I have to come up with the language to describe you this difference. And you have to define tools or build tools on your side capable of interpreting this language and changing your system accordingly. So it's very hard. So I really suggest you to take a look at how you use our data and try to understand if there is something that you can assume is statically correct. For example, after 5 years, you don't care if it changes. So you can download a subset, maybe the latest 5 years. That's one possible strategy. Some things tend not to change, but we cannot promise that. It's not up to us.
Yeah, I understand.
So, yeah, for example, when was it? 3 months ago, they let us notice that there was something wrong in the duplication. We realized that there was an exception we had to deal with. And when we did, of course, an earthquake went through the collection. So other the duplicated records changed all in a sudden because we refined it. It's better now, right? So it's not easy how to propagate.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, thank you. So that's the reason why we have monthly job for
Yes.
to check if everything's if we retrieve everything that we need.
Yeah, I know it's the solution at the moment.
Yeah.
We've got plenty of time for further questions and discussion. I'd be interested actually, Paolo, I just found out last week that I believe Elsevier is the biggest user of the graph. Was that correct? It'd be interesting to hear just a little bit more about that.
Of the APIs, yes.
Of the APIs, yeah.
Yes. So without Elsevier, we still have a very high usage.
Yes.
But Elsevier actually crashes our APIs because you know how many users they have worldwide. So when it happens, they hit on our API. So, and they, of course, so at the moment, they are our largest user, yes. I mean, I'm saying, for example, we move from 12 million hits per month to 70 millions, just to give you an idea. So it's because of the amount of users they're serving. Okay. I'm not sure for how long this will go on, but at the moment, that's the case, yes.
And have you got, can you say anything about plans for the future? I know you mentioned a couple of things, both of you.
Yes, I mentioned that, you're right. I mentioned that in the General Assembly last time. So there's a known challenge and trade-off in open science, right? So open science services, one may think as a user they are free, but they have a cost. So somebody has to pay for those, right? And the problem is that part of the funding comes from public fundings, and that's fair enough, I think is the way to go. But in some cases, it cannot cover for everything. So we are slowly moving to a model where we can ask for fees or low fees to those who can pay, of course. So that's the, how would you call it? The socialist way of looking at things. So, for example, we are planning now to release the APIs for free for all, of course, as usual, but for certain kinds of use, especially from companies or from, let's say, profit-making companies, which require higher level of usage or consumption of data, we are thinking to apply fees. Okay, so Elsevier for sure will be one of those candidates because they're really consuming our machinery every day. But this could be the case also for others in the future. So we want to follow an approach like Crossref. Crossref have a very nice approach for APIs, where they basically have sort of a way to rank the users and the consumers. So you are authorized to use the APIs through a token, and based on your income, you pay a certain fee. Okay, those fees are always super reasonable, especially we'll find ways to make them free for academic organizations and so on. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't, thank you for sharing that. I wasn't specifically meaning your plans around charging. I was just meaning anything exciting that you've got coming up in terms of developing the graph.
Yes, we have several things that are exciting. For example, the one thing that we are, two things I want to announce that we're working on at the moment. One is very much in line with many of the requests that we receive from the organizations and from the funders. And it's about qualifying, let's say, not quantifying, but qualifying the records in terms of fairness expectations. So the idea is to be able to rank records based on the level of completeness, the level of, let's say, coherence, because there are ways to understand if a record may be potentially wrong. For example, you're claiming that a publication is funded by a project that started after the publication. So this kind of stuff, okay? We are planning to rank the records in such a way that consumption can be based on such claims. For example, I just want to consider in my search super fair records, or I just want to consider in my monitor records that are fair enough, meaning they have the right links to the publications, they have the right links, they have a fully described abstract and title. For example, a usual anomaly is the cut and paste of the abstract of the publication to the data set. Okay, that's a classic, just to save time during metadata ingestion. So these are the kind of things that we want to help users to refine, to improve the way fairness is done. But at the same time, we'll send warnings to the records and recommendations, okay? When it's about warning, you know that your record may not be considered for monitoring, for example. So that's important. An empty record, like completely empty just with the DOI and the title, for example, may not be considered, and so on. The second thing instead is citations. We're very interested in identifying different levels of quality for the citations, because at the moment the approach we have is very similar to Google Scholar. So we include all possible citations independently from where they're coming from. That's the problem with Google Scholar, right? So you can cheat Google Scholar very easily by including publications which fake citations, and Google Scholar, we just chew them, ingest them, and produce them, okay? So it's Scholar is really not reliable from that point of view. At the moment, we follow the same approach. So we say we trust the community and their behavior, okay? So if you use our citation collection, it's up to you on your side to select which citations you want to use. So for example, limit yourself to the citations coming from peer-reviewed journals, okay? You can do that. If you have the list of journals, you download all our set and you subscribe to the subset you want. We have this idea of coloring the citation. So that's what we're working on at the moment. So coloring means that we will tell you which are the citations that are coming from fully trusted sources, so with a curation process behind and a way to double check the content of the citations, or the citations that have been inferred and from preprints, for example, or from places where curation is not necessarily provided. For example, publication in Zenodo, we infer the citations out of it. You have collections in Zenodo that are very trusted. So where a community is behind, you know they're not cheating on that. But the generic publication published in Zenodo without any endorsement from any community, from any curator, may be trusted, maybe not trusted. This is up to you. But I'm giving a color to those that is different from the color that I'm giving to a citation coming from Crossref or a citation coming from... The same holds, and there's another phenomenon which is very common, is the metadata citations. So many of the platforms out there today allow users to include citations as part of the metadata. So that basically means that today I'm publishing the OpenAIRE Graph dataset. It's super downloaded, super viewed. I can add Alen tomorrow as an author. Nobody will notice, okay? I can also add citations to it, to other publications. So all these citations, being part of the metadata, reach these graphs like ours, okay? But this can be manually added or removed every day. So if you want to use citations as a way to quantify quality, then we need to color them in a certain way, okay? So those citations will be colored in yet another way. So when you consume the data, you can decide which are the combination of the color, the palette that you want to use to measure your monitor and your, which is something that today you have to do on your own, selecting the data sources, using provenance and so on, right? Having colors simplifies the process. These are the two things we're doing, so.
That's really interesting. And you, just a question I asked you when I saw you in person last week, you've got a lot of information on the Graph website, haven't you, about the sources. Does it cover about what you class as trusted sources and how you do that?
Well, trusted, so we have a level of trust for each source. We assign a level of trust from 0 to 1. And for each piece of information that we infer, in fact. So some algorithms that we have a very high level of trust compared to others. So when you collect the data, you know what to use or not. We are not publishing the level of trust of the data source because it's an internal use. It would be unfair to say that we trust more than a source than another, but we have an idea behind, and we tend to change it over time, balance it, but it's internal. I mean, we cannot be the judge of what is to be trusted or not. But for example, Crossref has a 0.9. So because it's very high, but it's not 1. Okay, so Nobody reaches one, in fact, in many cases.
You don't trust anyone.
It does when we add a piece of information in it. Okay, when we add, after controlling, our whitelisting, our blacklisting has one. Okay, but because we have a user that is entitled to do so. Some sources, some forgotten institutional repositories have a lower one. And so when we merge the records, we tend to trust and start the construction of the record from a trusted sources than a less trusted sources. We use the less trusted to complete, so to compensate the rest of the information.
Okay, great. Thanks. We're not getting more questions coming in, but I'm going to ask the attendees a question just about, we had a request from NRENs to find out more about the OpenAIRE graph. So I'd be interested to know if there's anything going through your minds about how you could see yourselves using it, your organizations using it, or whether you need to take it away and think about it a bit more. Any comments?
My takeaway is, if you have at the level of the NRENs the need of monitoring certain aspects like we've shown before, then you can contact us and we can see what we can do. So we can certainly have, for example, if your NRENs also happen to represent a country or a community, or let's say a community of researchers, or even being connected to a funder that does that, then you're an ideal consumer of our data, because we can produce for you the monitoring or the indicators that you're looking for. Okay. Again, if you match one of the use cases that I mentioned before, then we'd be happy to support you.
That's great. Okay, well, if there's no more questions coming in, we'll wrap up, and just to say thank you very much to Alen, Paolo and Stefania for coming along. And we've got your contact details, so if anybody wants to get in touch with further questions, please do. And all the resources and the recording will be shared with you after today. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ellen. Thank you all.